A historic day here at First Touch Daily 2026. David Goss with you live from our studios. And for the first time ever on this show, we are joined by someone from the afterlife who is returning. We have with us Matt Doyle, and we have Eric Krakauer, who passed to the other side last night and has returned as our noted Portuguese co-host. Eric, I was worried about you the whole day. And then last night I got more worried about you. And I'm so good to see you. And you promised you'd wear the jersey, and you had to.
Yes, and it feels great to actually fit into this jersey. It's a bit snug, but I fit.
You've had a fun 24 hours, right?
That's one way to put it.
Well, we will get into it, of course. Portugal's dramatic win over Croatia to close out yesterday. We have one of the worst pieces of news we'll have on this show. The Swiss won a knockout game. We have to watch them play soccer. Again, I apologize to the whole world and, of course, to myself.
I don't even think that's the worst news coming out of this game. I think the worst news is that Johan Manzabi, who has become my favorite young player at this tournament.
Because he leveled up. Football manager.
He did level up. The fact that it looks like Newcastle are the team that are likely to get him for north of 50 million euros.
Here.
And why do you have an issue with that?
That means I will not see him play soccer again until the Euros in 2028.
If the Swiss national team can't break his spirit and his will to play in engaging
Buddy,
and
you
entertaining.
ever been to Newcastle?
on a rainy night, which, by the way, I'm now realizing, can they do it at a rainy night in Stoke, which obviously a bit and a meme, but has always been a thing. I've now realized as England prepares to play in humidity and altitude for the first time and shockingly figures out travel schedules, they just think that's really bad weather. They think that's the extreme that you can go to is it's slightly rainy and it's an evening game. We've got a lot of big games coming up today. We've got Australia versus Egypt to open things up. Egypt and Ghana have a huge task today. They are trying to sort of save this round of 32 for the African Federation. So that one is going to be a big one down in Dallas. Then it'll be 112 degrees in Miami Gardens, baby, for Argentina versus Cape Verde. That one at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we close out the night with what I am sure is going to be one of the most electric crowds of the round with Colombia facing Ghana. It is our second to last day of this round. So tomorrow, it's the last day of the round of 32. Tomorrow is the round of 16. We'll have Canada face off against Morocco to open up tomorrow, and then we'll have France facing Paraguay. By the way, if Australia goes through, the U.S. won the group of death. Fact. All three teams.
Yeah, so I know that analytics are verboten at this point in sports discussion, but I saw a lot of the analytics nerds talking about the U.S. group before the tournament kicked off, and they said this is actually the toughest group because in terms of just aggregate ELO ranking and FIFA ranking, it was the highest average because there was no really weak team.
So private equity early bought in a 33% share of the group.
Yeah.
See, there's the numbers, baby. That's all you came here for. That one was for Connor specifically. So we'll talk about all those games coming up. But first, let's dig into what we saw so far. Doyle, was that, we like to start with our three big things. Was that your big thing?
The
preseason ELO ranking?
My big thing, and look, we're going to run a clear out for Eric here in a minute. This is going to be Kobe scoring 60 points on 55 shots, that kind of performance
You're
today.
overselling.
But I've been waiting for Spain to show up, at least the B- version of Spain. And we hadn't even gotten that in this tournament. And there was some talk after the Uruguay game, which was just Uruguay with axe handles and machetes going after Spain for 90 minutes, that they've been figured out. There's a way. And they followed that up with a game against Ralph Rangnick's Austria team, which is basically the game model of axe handles and machetes was originated. Yeah. And Spain just absolutely handled them. And it was still like a B- version of Spain at best because Pedri is still not looking quite like Pedri. But it was nice to see. And we talked about this the other day. We're verging on too many upsets for the two. You want to see a bunch of the Giants go pretty far because you want more of those David versus Goliath matchups. And France has held up its end of the bargain. England barely held up its end of the bargain. we all expect Argentina to do the same. And I was a little bit worried about Spain, and I'm much less worried now. And so, still on track for that date with the U.S. national team in the semifinals.
I can tell you, because I do it every morning, David versus David, just underwhelming. It really falls flat. I do it in the mirror, once a day.
Every morning.
It's really, really
This
sad.
is not compelling at all.
No, you want that David versus Goliath when you get there. Mine is that Vladimir Petkovic, head coach of Algeria, lost yesterday to Switzerland, where he is from. He is a native of Switzerland. He is the 6th manager in World Cup history to face the country of his birth as the head coach of a different national team, and all 6 have lost. And I like the idea there that there's just that debate inside of you, that internal debate, which makes you lose that 1%, and that's why you're not able to win. There is this fact coming into this World Cup, one I think that's been said to every England fan. No foreign coach has ever won a World Cup for a national team. So it's like, you have to be fully committed. You have to be from the soil, as Gustavo Alfaro, who's not from the soil, stated about the Paraguay national team. Otherwise, you can't get it done. And when you go back through the history of this, it is exactly what you'd think, which is it's smaller national teams going out and getting a coach from one of the big national teams. So it was Swedish coach against Hungary, when Hungary were the mighty Magyars. It was an Austrian coach against Austria when Austria were still the magical team. And then it was a Brazilian coach for Peru in 1970 against Brazil, which probably isn't going to go super well for you. And then Ricardo La Volpe, who is, for anyone doesn't know, an Argentine coach who has made his career in Mexico and was one of the first to start bringing in dual nationals into the team. He brought Guillermo Franco in. He brought Zinha at the time. And now Julian Quinones is the best player on the team, and La Volpe was lambasted for it. And the ones who were most extreme thought not only was La Volpe wrong for bringing those players in, La Volpe didn't have the heart to coach the team. That was like a huge conversation. Then they went Sven-Goran Eriksson just to keep going in that direction. They rooted around through Tata Martino, and now they're back to Javier Aguirre for the 15th time. And then Regari, the Moroccan coach who was French-born at the last World Cup with France. So 6 coaches that have ever faced the nation of their birth as a national team head coach for a different country. All 6 have lost. I don't know.
So now we know that if the U.S. make the final against Argentina, the U.S. is doomed.
He's 200% Argentine.
But what if the U.S. makes the final against Canada? Well, I guess it would be the semifinal against Canada.
Oh, the world would be thrown into chaos.
But here's the thing. Because Poch is 200% Argentine, the percentage might be large enough that it comes back around, and now he's actually American.
That's a lot more math. That's really well done, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so smart.
And Jesse's a Princeton guy, so he'll find a way to move. He'll move his shares around. He'll be a shadow buyer on the U.S. by the end of it. So that's mine. Eric, do you have a big thing to talk about from yesterday's games?
Yes, if you'll permit me some time.
It's all yours, baby.
My big thing is Roberto Martinez. And let me preface the following by saying this. He seems to be a very genuine, shall I say, benevolent person. Very good analyst on television. And he has represented Portugal beautifully as a club ambassador. He belts out the Portuguese national anthem before games. Having said that, he has proven utterly inept as the head coach of the Portuguese national team. I used to think it harsh when people said that he squandered Belgium's golden generation. They did, after all, reach a semifinal and finished in 3rd place in the 2018 World Cup. I know that the story is very different in European championships. Yesterday was the culmination of terrible coaching. In one fell swoop, he basically threw the game into chaos. And what little faith I had in his coaching ability evaporated when he made 4 substitutions that seemingly made no sense whatsoever when he was chasing the game. Now, good fortune was on his side because a penalty, a soft penalty in my view, was awarded to the Portuguese during a corner. But those substitutions then hollowed out Portugal's midfield, allowed Croatia to score, thankfully in an offside position. And what happens afterwards is Roberto Martinez trying to clean up his mess. In doing so, he did something that I now realize, and I may be wrong, was less in courage and more because he was out of choices, and that was to pull Cristiano Ronaldo. When he realized that he had this vacuous hole in midfield and he needed to sub in another midfielder, by the way, his last substitution of the game, he looked at his options up front. He had Cristiano Ronaldo, he had Gonçalo Ramos, 2 center forwards, and he had Rafael Leão. I'll talk about him a little bit later. He realized he couldn't forego width, and Cristiano Ronaldo didn't have any more legs, and so he opted for pulling Cristiano Ronaldo. That was not something that he intended to do. I'm sure of it.
Backed himself into a corner.
He backed himself into a corner.
It's not something Cristiano Ronaldo looked that like
Very
he
pleased
thought
about.
was possible.
I'm gonna interrupt and just give a little bit of context. Now, my understanding is that Roberto Martinez, win, lose, or draw, is out after this. And his next job is Al Nassr. And you wonder who's pulling the strings there. So if you wonder why he is being so deferential and
to
craving
a 41-year-old.
to a 41-year-old,
I actually think he believes in him, but suffice it to
believes
say
in the paycheck too.
that Portugal should have lost that game. Croatia were the better team in the second half.
Yeah.
And then there is a controversial call in the end that we'll talk about at some point on this show. But I cannot wait. And again, I fully respect the man that he is, but I cannot wait for him as a coach to walk out the door. And I'm thankful that he gave us a Nations League trophy. And I think it's a trophy that is going to become more important in the future than it is now.
I agree.
So thank you for your service. Thank you for the man you are as just a person.
Get out.
But it's time to go.
So Portugal will move on to play Spain on Monday in Dallas, 3 p.m. Eastern time. It was the 16th time Portugal has trailed at any point in a World Cup. It was the second time they came back. North Korea shaking in their boots right now from that 1966 comeback. Portugal comes out. They control the first half. I think dominate's probably the wrong word because there wasn't a ton of chance creation.
In the first 15 minutes, there was.
Yeah,
right? The
promising.
first 15 minutes, they were controlling the ball.
First 15 minutes, it was Roberto Martinez. Where's Rafael Leão been?
Bruno Fernandes, like constantly making those runs past the front line into the depth. Got a couple of good chances off of it. Spectacular performance from the Croatian keeper.
Neto, I think he's been underwhelming this World Cup. I thought he was really strong in that opening segment of play as well.
But that was it.
Times, and he gets to that cross. He pulls back to that cross to the far post, but they don't score. And then Ronaldo ends up scoring on the penalty. It's his one touch inside the box of the entire game.
Hold on, because before that, there's a goal chalked off. Ronaldo is in an offside position and scores essentially what would be one of the goals of the tournament for me. The way he caresses that ball
and then
delicately
flick
out of the air and the quick trigger right afterwards to beat Livakovic, who's been one of the goalkeepers of the tournament.
I mean, that's 2 goals in this game where if the guys were bald, then both would have stood.
But I say the touch thing because you watch this game and you start to see Vitinha get into his flow. He picks up the ball, he's moving it around, he's constantly touching the ball, and you start to see, to me, okay, here's PSG, right? Ruben Neves doesn't start this game, João Neves does, so now you've got that pairing. They are the best club team on the planet, and they have been for 2+ years. And the engine of that team is those 2 guys and the constant movement. And then you just watch how ineffective it is. And to me, it is they're waiting for the runs.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the movement in front of them.
They're waiting for the runs, but they're also having to do so much more work defensively than they ever have to for PSG because PSG's frontline defense.
But this first half was not the issue. We
and
talked
PSG
about Ronaldo
dominates
and
possession.
pressing.
Yeah.
There was no pressing in this game because Croatia never had the ball in that first half. Yeah. But it was make runs, open up the game, and you think about PSG. You don't consider anyone a center forward. Like everyone across the front 3 plays all 3 spots, and then you watch this game and you realize how stationary Ronaldo is, and it just doesn't open up the gaps.
The funniest moment in the game was there was a breakaway, I think midway or maybe late in the first half, and it ends up getting to Ronaldo and him and Leão on the break, and they're just kind of like occupying the same spot, and the entire movement, which honestly should have ended up in a shot, just breaks down with Ronaldo standing on the ball and Leão standing behind him, giving him the stink eye, and like neither of them moving at all.
Yeah. A further indictment of Roberto Martinez is the fact that he has reduced an intrepid center midfielder, 2 times Champions League winner, into a sideways passer. Yeah. And I understand the point that you're making, Gus, about there not being vertical runs for him to stretch the field with his passing. But there have been in this tournament for Portugal. Players have made runs, including Cristiano Ronaldo. there was one move that he made to spin off of Davinson Sanchez in the Colombia game, and there was a huge corridor for Vitinha to thread the ball through, and he didn't. He turned it back. There was another similar situation in that game when Bruno Fernandes also had the ball, and Cristiano had made a really good run. So I think that suggesting there is a lack of verticality is right, because there is. There wasn't in those first 15 minutes, and I think that's why Portugal looked so dynamic and promising. But there's also a hesitation to pull the trigger, and I think that risk aversion comes down to Roberto Martinez wanting to control the tempo and space and realizing that in transition they are vulnerable.
Yeah. Right. Which is the same thing that Belgium were 10 years ago under him. Right? They were reluctant at times, unless it was De Bruyne making magic. They were reluctant structurally in those moments because honestly the rest defense was never particularly good, and I think that is that's what's informing Vitinha. It's not just the coach saying it. Vitinha's a smart guy. He's like, I don't want to have to get into a foot race every single time I try to play the ball forward, and I think that is just this collective cascade of positional failures in the way the team is constructed.
It is a failure of the footballing blueprint.
Yeah.
I will say this, and we talked about this a few days ago before the Colombia game, and I said that in order for Portugal to get Cristiano Ronaldo involved, they'd have to push up their line of confrontation and push up their back line. They did that against Croatia in the first half, and their aggressiveness in defense, Diaz and Vega I thought was very good and continues to grow into this tournament. They made it very difficult, almost impossible for Ante Budimir to win the ball or for Croatia to be able to compose themselves and build out through the back. That's why I actually think that Dalic, the Croatian coach, makes a really good move in taking Budimir out at the half and adding more mobility to the attack. So we saw a lot of the structural shifts that we'd been looking for from Portugal in the first 15 minutes, but then it just reverted to mean.
And so Croatia has 32% possession in the first half, and then they come out of halftime and they come out flying. They score in the 53rd through Perisic. They finish the second half on 48% possession. A little bit of that's game states, but Portugal didn't score till late that they were chasing. Yeah. Croatia completely shifts this game.
I don't think it was game states. I think it was Croatia going for it and changing the terms of the engagement by bringing their line up high 100%. And then releasing Perisic on the left, which unbalanced Portugal. And they never really figured out a reaction to that, it felt like, until with 30 minutes left, Roberto Martinez is like, all right, tactics free zone. Let's just get rid of our midfield because we can't figure out how to weaponize it anyway. Let's bring out five attackers.
He went into a full panic.
Yeah.
He went into a full panic when he made those substitutions. And not only did Croatia push up their line of their defensive line, but they also committed players into the attack. Ante Budimir was isolated. I think he needed to come off because he's not the most mobile guy. He's a poacher. Matanovic comes in, he gives you mobility, but when he picks up his head, he sees runners.
Yeah.
And Portugal couldn't contend with that. But going back to the goal that Croatia scored, I was screaming at the television at Rafael Leão, who watched that entire play developed and left Nuno Mendes out to dry in that play. It was so infuriating. And then Cancelo also has a little bit of a brain fart and pinches in to double team Matanovic, I think. I'm not sure who was attacking the ball, and leaves Perisic wide open to control the ball and shoot the ball. But by that point, or maybe just after that, my timeline is a little bit hazy considering how panicked I was and how much I was a hostage to my emotions.
I thought you were going to say a hostage to Roberto Martinez.
A hostage to Roberto Martinez's decisions as terrorist. Well. But Diogo Costa stood on his head once again, like he did against Colombia. He's been the standout player.
Yeah.
So the fact that Portugal were even in the game after the first 15 or 20 minutes of that second half was remarkable.
Yeah. So
let me just make on the Croatia goal. You go back and watch it, and Rafael Leão, zero defensive work done on that sequence.
No, he pointed also to everyone to defend.
Neto on the other side is 35 yards upfield. Walking, and that speaks to something just broken fundamentally in terms of the collective.
My heart.
And and with Leão, I have said he should start on this team because I believe he is one of the best attacking players on the planet. I cannot wait for him to leave Milan,
incredibly
go somewhere
talented,
and be the guy. And if I ran a team, I would throw everything.
He's 27.
He
He's
will
not
never
gonna
be the guy.
But it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And that's why he doesn't
Inconsistent
start.
Is a little bit too positive.
Yeah.
I mean, he has flashes. He hits the crossbar, great, and delivers a sumptuous cross. Ramos transcends all physicality, jumps up in the air, beats 2 defenders to the ball, and scores an incredible header. One of the reasons why I want him on the field from the start. He also makes the vertical runs that you have been asking for. But what makes the Lyon situation so frustrating for me is not only his talent, but he's one of the few players who can stretch the field.
Yeah.
But because he's such a defensive liability, and now they're playing Spain, my decision would be bench this guy and just, break the glass if you need him, and you need somebody to just go to the wall at the end of the game.
It is amazing that you go from João Felix starting to João Felix not playing in a game where he was all 5 subs.
Thank you for bringing that up. That, again, just highlights the lack of consistency from Roberto Martinez.
So Portugal, they get the penalty kick. You mentioned it, slightly soft. Listen.
We don't see many of those called. That's the only... Was there a grab? Is it a foul?
Well, you
Yes.
start with, as a defender, don't put your arm around a guy in the
Yes.
box. Also, spoilers to everyone playing in the World Cup. There's like a lot of cameras at the World Cup. And then there's like 3 people who sit in a room with their arms crossed that watch the games. So don't do stuff like this. We don't see it called often. Flo Balogun pulled down in the USA game in the box. Not
exactly.
called. And he releases, it felt like potentially early enough to bail the ref out from having to make the call. But they make the call anyway. Ronaldo steps up, he scores. So it's Ronaldo's first World Cup knockout goal of his career. Anointed. He's got a future now.
The greatest player in the world now.
Yeah.
Look, I've been a big critic. I don't think he should start. I've been saying that for 4 years. Now it's become fashion to say that he is surplus to plans, which I think is an exaggeration. I felt happy for him because as much as I'm not the biggest fan of his, not as a player, but on a personal level, for a variety of reasons, I do think he has come under some unfair criticism. He has been scapegoated. Is he one of the issues afflicting this Portuguese national team? Yes. Is he the biggest issue? No. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I was happy for him. He gets his knockout goal. But then I was immediately annoyed at him for his reaction when he saw his number come up. He was as surprised as all of us.
He looked like he didn't know where you're supposed to go off. He looked around like, what do people do in this scenario?
Exactly.
As if he's like staring around the stadium trying to find an exit door.
I'm surprised he sort of
walked off. Yeah.
high-fived.
And there was a moment where you're like,
high-fived Roberto Martinez.
is he going to stay on? And then Gonzalo Ramos comes on.
An Algarve, south of Portugal.
Oh, nice.
Like me.
okay.
I wasn't born in the south. I was born in Lisbon, but I grew up in the south. I'm a southerner.
Nice. He scores coming on. So he currently averages a goal or an assist every 37 minutes at the World Cup, which is the best for any Portuguese player.
Keep him
that
on
has
the bench.
5+ goal contributions. So we have said over and over, part of the reason Ronaldo keeps starting is there isn't actually a clear option that has emerged and said, no, it's my spot. Milan thinks he is because they were going to spend $125 million on him, which is crazy. But he has performed when he's on the field, and he did so again yesterday.
So the problem with Gonzalo Ramos is he chose the wrong club team 4 years ago. He chose to sign.
Not financially.
Yeah, fair. He's probably doing okay.
Yeah.
He could buy the
Algarve's
South
got
now.
a new hotel.
From Olhão, who, by the way, Olhão, we talked about it because Todd went there on his honeymoon. He's from Olhão, which is a poor fisherman town in Portugal, to PSG's riches. I would take that job,
Yeah, it's
too.
fair.
Yeah.
But he playing for that team, they didn't want a true center forward. They wanted a Dembele type who can stretch the field in multiple ways, but also drop it and play make. And Gonçalo Ramos is just a classic number 9.
Yep.
For the way Portugal is built, and he also defends, by the way. He's not the world's greatest pressing forward.
But he's a good presser.
But he's good.
Yeah.
For the way Portugal plays and the talent that they have in central midfield, I think he is a perfect fit. Also because if you do feel the need to start Leao, you are going to start at least one of your front line who does not defend. Portugal's good enough to carry one guy who doesn't defend. So that's one. And two is like, watch the way Portugal play. When Cristiano is out there, Cristiano always shades to the left. So suddenly these guys are getting into each other's way. Gonçalo Ramos naturally stretches away from the ball. He does not want the ball to feet to combine around the box. He wants to go occupy. And I think it simplifies the spacing issues for this team.
100%. He can combine, though.
He can, yeah.
If you ask him to.
But he knows it's not his strong suit.
And here's the key to Gonçalo Ramos. If I'm Bruno Fernandes, if I'm Vitinha, if I'm João Neves, and I know that he's on the field, I'm more inclined to make a vertical run, an untracked run into the box, because I know that Gonçalo Ramos will protect me.
Yep.
He'll track back. He will chase. Whereas if Cristiano Ronaldo is on the field, he's not going to do that. Not because he doesn't want to. He's not as much of a diva on the field as people have accused him of, but he doesn't have the legs, because if he's making that tracking run, he's not going to be able to stretch even in a short, explosive gallop. Can I say that? Do those go together? Whatever. But so he what he does is he's a safety valve in some ways for the midfielders.
Are you guys ready to talk technology now?
Yes.
We love technology
Yes.
on this show. That is mainly why we started this tech podcast, in which we will talk about the latest and greatest in technology day in and day out. Hashtag science. So, game goes 1-1 off the Ronaldo goal, penalty kick. He eventually gets subbed out because now Portugal's scrambling. They can't figure out their game states. I thought Kovacic was phenomenal in this game.
He was amazing.
These
he was
moments,
the best player on the field.
By the way,
these moments where he burst through midfield and you're like, oh, he's gotten 45 yards. I thought he could have even been more aggressive, which is unfortunate for him that it was necessary. But
so elegant on the ball as well. And he reminds me of something that Casemiro said about him. He said that he was an exceptional player at Real Madrid, but didn't have the mental fortitude to be a Real Madrid player. And I think that could potentially be his Achilles even at Manchester City, a guy who doesn't deal well with the pressure. But as a footballer, man, he is a footballer.
32 years old, out of contract next summer. Manchester City are selling a lot of their older guys.
So
I mean, if you're an MLS team.
I was going to say, you're thinking St. Louis City on that one?
I'm thinking Charlotte FC.
Yeah, I would be happy anywhere in MLS.
Yes, anywhere except Inter Miami.
He has played his best soccer with Croatia over the course of his career, and I think
Get him to Toronto.
Yeah. My buddy who was at the game, who's been at every Toronto game, said the atmosphere yesterday was levels above anything else.
It came through the TV. Yeah.
Everyone in the city the whole day was like, you can see jerseys, you're hearing marches just throughout the city, not just around the stadium. And then my buddy who's been in the building and was in Vancouver for some of the games said by far the best atmosphere he has experienced. And there is one famous fan who will be watching her meme or her GIF over and over and over again, talking to the referee after this call. So Ramos scores the goal, goes up 2-1, and then Portugal sit in, they defend, and the goal gets scored for Ramos, to be clear, into stoppage time. So the referee shows 10 minutes of stoppage time. The Gonçalo Ramos, hates that, goal and then celebration extends the stoppage time. And Derek Rice said that, I almost said ESPN, Fox recorded on that it was 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that 2.5 minutes gets added to the 10 without anyone wearing a Portuguese jersey at the Newark street celebration, listening to that stat, caring about that stat, or understanding it. So I sat through 3 minutes of whistles about blowing the whistle. And then Croatia puts the ball in the back of the net.
But they went beyond, right? He went beyond that a lot of time.
Not at that point. So 10 minutes plus was what was shown before Ramos scores. If you add the 2.5, it would have been 12.5 minutes. The goal is scored before it hits 12.5.
It scored like 12-18.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
you got 12 minutes to spare.
I
on
wasn't
that
really.
one.
I mean, yes,
Yeah,
I was.
Pat
I was
Mahomes could have put up
complaining.
another 3 points after that if you'd given him the opportunity. The ball hits the back of the net. It goes in. Celebrations, wild, everything. This World Cup has been dramatic. Already that game was added to it. And then we get VAR review on the offside call.
Shave your head, dude. That's it.
And the issue on the call is as the ball comes in, there is a Croatia, I can't remember names now, goes up to challenge for it. And
Matanovic, I'm pretty sure.
It was?
I think it was
Okay.
Matanovic.
So Matanovic goes up to challenge for it. If he touches it, he now resets the offside marker, and now Pasalic is in an offside position beyond him. If he doesn't touch it, Pasalic onside because the original ball that comes in from the wing, he is onside when that ball gets played. It's flicked on, he takes a touch off his thigh, it goes across, and then it's put into the back of the net. Now we go into IMU sensors. And IMU sensors are a sensor device that measures and reports an object's specific acceleration, angular velocity, and sometimes magnetic orientation. It combines data from multiple internal sensors to track an object's movement, orientation, and trajectory in 3D space. So we get this heart monitor that comes up on the screen. And basically what they do is they have a piece of technology inside the ball that determines every touch of the ball. They line that up against the video, and as it passes his head, they see a spike, which means he touched it. Because he touched it, it resets the offside line, and therefore the Croatian attacker Pasalic is in offside position, and that takes away the goal.
Here's a quote from Igor Matanovic. Honestly, I think I felt a slight contact with my hair. I asked the referee. I wasn't 100% sure if I had touched the ball. He told me that they had a chip in the ball, and there was a slight contact, and that, therefore, it was offside. Once they determine that the contact has been made, then it's a question of whether, I think it was Vega, plays the ball intentionally.
He doesn't play the ball intentionally.
Yeah,
He's
I don't
ducking.
think so either.
He's
Yeah.
ducking.
Yeah.
You know what? Do you know what really
I
frustrated
didn't have
me?
a problem with this.
I didn't either. Obviously, I'm biased. I would have been pissed off had I been a Croatian fan or had it happened to Portugal. I was relieved. But you know what really annoys me about people? You know, I was
Let's
scrolling.
go.
I
Go.
I'm as a misanthrope, you know, on the best of days. But I'm scrolling through social media, and I'm also getting some responses. And people are saying, including some pretty well-known pundits, many of them my good friends, and they're saying, VAR is ruining the game. This is why we shouldn't have VAR. They took away this moment. They robbed Croatia of this goal and of getting an opportunity and extra time. Did I not see the assistant referee raise the flag? Did he not raise the flag?
In real time.
In real time?
That's a great question. I've never even thought about that.
I am pretty sure he raised his flag.
Right. But you hold it until the goal goes in, then you raise it so you
And
can
then
go
you
and
raise
review
it.
Yeah.
Had there been no VAR, had
Right.
there been no microchip, there's no discussion. I mean, there's a discussion between
Right.
fans, and people are annoyed about it.
Yeah.
They're talking about whether there was a touch. They're talking about whether Vega got a touch intentionally or not. And by the way, the rule changed about a year and a half ago. I suggest you go and read it if you have a problem with that. But he raised his flag. So VAR isn't the issue. And then insofar as the microchip is concerned and it's chirping, you have to essentially suspend disbelief in some ways and hope that technology works, very much like semi-automated offside. I believe that it measures it down to the pixel.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, the game is gone. But where was the outrage when Alexander Isak got a toenail to the ball against Tunisia to keep a play from being called offside as Sweden scored another goal against them? Where was the outrage then? They used the microchip. Do you guys remember that? If you don't,
Honestly,
you can
no.
go
I
to,
only watched
you
the
can go-
the highlights of that game.
You can go to @EricKrakauer on Twitter, and I posted the images. Now, the context, and context is everything, is very different. Tunisia sucked. They were already down, I think, 3-0.
Yeah.
This is different. But the chip chirped, and there was no chirping from the trolls.
So there's like one deep corner of the internet that's like, we actually haven't seen it lined up correctly. That's actually a different touch. And, you know, they're hiding it from us. So that's like the whole, I guess JFK may have played the initial ball in, and that's that community that's sort of on that side of things.
Did you just say JFK?
Yeah, because this is like pure. People are like, the touch is fake. They create the touch in a graph, so they're able to build it, and then they show it to you.
Yeah.
This isn't fun. Talking about IMU sensors and watching that isn't fun. But we live in a world in which a German player handballed the ball off a line, and we talk about it 24
So
years later.
I just want to make the point that if VAR existed, it's 1-1 Mexico early in the second half, and we're playing 10v11 because John O'Brien sent off.
Fine. That's fine. But
Love John O'Brien.
either way, someone's upset. Croatian fans are upset because they were a hair away from tying that game. You're going to be equally upset whether you think technology screwed you or reality screwed you.
It just changes where in the pipeline of is that call correct or not, human error comes into play. And I don't like it because I think I like a goal is scored and you get to celebrate the goal and there's no ambiguity. At the same time, we have all been on the wrong side of those calls. And so that's why there was this groundswell 15 years ago, once the technology became available, to be like, hey, instant replay works really well, or computer-aided stuff works really well in tennis. It works well in football. Let's bring it to soccer.
Cricket as well.
And here we are.
Now, the big issue with a lot of those sports is they're static spaces and static sports. Tennis's lines never move. You can set everything up. Cricket, to be clear, I've never watched, but it's pretty static.
But they have the chip on the ball.
I'm kidding. I don't.
Yeah.
I've watched
It
the
is pretty
cricket,
static.
and
It
I
is pretty
don't
static.
care.
And I still don't understand. And I went to a cricket school, but there was a lot of drinking.
So, and then this ends up being the end of the game. They play a couple more seconds afterwards, and it's over. I think on Croatia's side, this is always the reality. It's a country of 4 million people. They are riding this impossible line with the success they've had, and when it falls early. And listen, Dalic was great in the second half. This team was very good. I thought they were pretty poor throughout most of the group stage. I thought they didn't deserve to win against Panama. And then the Ghana game, at that point, Ghana have already qualified, so it's not the most competitive game you have. But this is what we've seen from Croatia, which is semifinals or bust. Now, for other countries, this would be heroes return. And unfortunate, because it's probably Luka Modric's,
He'll get a testimonial,
Yeah,
but this
and
is farewell.
Yeah.
And he's one of the great players in the history of the game in the World Cup.
Let's not fly over the Luka Modric topic, because this man deserves his flowers and more for the servant that he's been to Croatia, his longevity, but not just longevity, the quality that he still possesses, and the crucial cog that he is for this national team. Some people were singing his praises in this game. I don't think he had the best game in the world. I think he played well. I think Kovacic overshadowed him, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's also 8 years younger. But just a remarkable player that I'm going to be very sad to not see anymore playing for Croatia.
At 40 years old, he started 32 games for Milan this year.
Yeah.
He
And
played
he was-
100. He played 113 minutes yesterday in 100-degree weather for a team in central midfield, and agreed wasn't his best game.
Yeah.
He was not a problem in
No,
that game.
he was not the problem,
And
yeah.
there is a moment when Portugal scores in the 90th minute where they cut to him, and I thought back to 2018 and the fact that the identity of that team was that they ran through the wall and everyone else, or the line. Everyone else would stop at the line, and he was the heartbeat of that, which was, I give 120% until the final whistle. And remember, that tournament was late comebacks, and they played into extra time, 30-plus minutes, 3 times,
Yep.
and they made it all the way to
went to
semifinal
penalties, yep.
because Modric was the heartbeat of that team, and that's what he allowed
And
them
it
to
wasn't
do.
just Modric. It was Kovacic, Modric, and Rakitic.
Yeah.
One of the best triumvirates you've ever seen in center midfield in a major tournament. Last point on Portugal, just really quickly. I was very annoyed when Roberto Martinez announced his 26 because of a few omissions. One was Paulinho, Golden Boot in Liga MX, a Champions Cup winner with Toluca, as well as a national championship as well, scoring goals for fun. And I thought he's the kind of player that you bring off the bench if Gonçalo Ramos is misfiring. The other two absentees are Palhinha and Mateus Fernandes. Mateus Fernandes, because he hoovers the ball in midfield, was West Ham's best player, apart from the Dutch Somerville, Crescencio Somerville, who apparently is going to Manchester United. But Palhinha was one of those guys that I felt you brought into the game when you were holding on to a lead and you knew that your box was going to be bombarded. Had he been there instead of Ruben Neves, I think that would have made a difference. And I don't think Ruben Neves comes in and plays badly. It's a chaotic game, and there's very little that you can do to really influence it. but you're missing that height because Portugal, again, not only vulnerable to transition, but vulnerable to aerial attacks.
I'd say I'm glad we were able to start a Portugal podcast.
Yeah.
It's been about 35
Sorry,
minutes.
let's move on. I've
We've
got plenty to say about Spain. And
it was the game we were waiting for.
Yes.
It had the vibe you and Michele talked about
the stale possession.
because there wasn't risk, there wasn't chance. Then it ends in drama, and it is. I mean, I made fun of Fox because they made it Modric versus Ronaldo, and that's all they talked about. But it is, going to look back, a legacy game for these two athletes, as well as two national teams that are both on the verge of being in the party. There's 7 countries that have won a World Cup, and Croatia has been to back-to-back semifinals before this. They've been to 3 semifinals in the 31 years the country has existed. But this is going to be a reset now, post-Modric for them, because that's what it was. It was 98. Took a little while. Even with Modric in the team, it took a little while. And then all of a sudden, when they hit their ground, they had that midfield 3. They had Mandzukic. They have Perisic. And now they're a great team.
Mandzukic.
I assume because of the 4.5 million people, we're looking at the next 8 years where they're looking for it.
It's going to be an Uruguay type of situation where they'll always be good because it's just culturally they know how to produce athletes who perform at a high level and perform collectively, and they sort of embrace that idea. But you need to hit the genetic lottery with a group of guys who come together sort of at the same time as they did with this great generation, specifically in midfield.
Although I will say about Croatia, the same was being said when Davor Suker and Robert Prosinecki, and other guys, Zvonimir Boban before that.
But it took 14 to 16 years after
Fair
that.
enough.
Yeah.
That's
Fair
what
enough.
I'm saying. They'll go to World Cups,
Yeah.
to his point. They'll
Yeah.
go to World Cups.
But they should get used to losing early in the knockout rounds.
It'll be more like Euros for them, where it's like you're not back to Sucic, the only player in the starting lineup under the age of 26 in this team. Obviously,
Superb
Guardiola
talent.
injured, so doesn't start. So there's talent in there, and as you said, there'll always be talent because they have good production. Also, they're in UEFA, so players can move very easily. And now everyone in UEFA knows that it's a place to go get talent. And we've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in England where they're going and get 18-years-olds. And Portugal will move on, and they will face a country called Spain. The two are very unassociated. So that we'll do
familiar with each other.
Yeah, we'll do a quick geography lesson when we get closer to that game to explain to the two countries where each other's located.
They're more Andorran exclaves is how I think of both.
Gibraltar is the real powerhouse of
Yes.
the region. Spain wins 3-0. You said it. This was a pretty peak performance from them. I think it's pretty telling that so far in this round, and Argentina will step on the field later today, there are 2 games that have had clear winners. France and Spain. Both of them have been 3-0. Otherwise, everything else has been 91st minute hairs and trying to figure out who has follicles and who doesn't. It wasn't perfect from Spain, but there was no point in which it felt like they were going to lose unless you were Eric rooting for Austria as hard as possible.
I really was rooting for Austria.
He kept telling me how close it was while Spain dominates the game.
I did not say that.
It was the first time watching Spain in this tournament where it felt like, oh, this is inevitable. This might be 3-1, but more likely it's 3-0 or 4-0, and that's who they are at their very best. And I think it's beautiful to watch. Other people feel like it's too slow and too methodical, but I get so much joy out of watching Pedri receive a pass.
Yeah.
Because he takes touches that I've watched 45 years of soccer, man. So I'm like, what kind of touch midfielders, and he takes touches that I did not see coming, and very clearly from the reactions on the field, neither did any of the defenders around. And so when he started to cook a little bit, then that just unlocked more stuff for the guys going forward. Dani Olmo still continues to struggle a little bit. I thought he found the ball in good spots, but he
asserts himself.
He does. He's not afraid of the moment.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, during that Euros run, he was able to create a little bit of separation and get those shots. I think he had 3 shots blocked yesterday. So it's not all falling into place, but it looks really good. And obviously, Baena has kind of revealed himself as a really good balance to Lamine Yamal in this one. I've been thinking about last week when we were talking about the difference between Lamine Yamal and Vinny. And I think that, and they're both wingers, right? But Vinny is always looking to combine small to make the game big. Mm-hmm. Whereas Lamine Yamal often he'll take touches to bring the game up to him and create space to play guys in behind, not just run in behind himself. So there's an orchestration about the way Lamine Yamal plays, and we hadn't gotten a ton of that. It was way too much isolation stuff in the group stage. In this one, and I think part of it was because Austria is going to play the way Austria plays. He was much more patient, I think, to the benefit of Spain, and then it just became an academic exercise for, okay, how many times is the ball going to be open in the box for one-touch finishes? And it turns out the answer is 2.
He has done pretty well for you, who drafted him to your Golden Boot team. He's got 4 goals so far at this World Cup, had another 2 yesterday. It's the first knockout World Cup victory for Spain since the 2010 World Cup final, which pretty good for them so that they don't get eliminated at the first stage once again. And as you said, another big performance from Baena, who is trying to do something historic, be a relevant Atletico Madrid player in the Spanish national team. Wow. Seriously, what, 20 plus years? Koke couldn't do it, and I don't think he was the reason it fell apart, but I think he was part of the issue.
He was blamed.
Marcus Llorente couldn't do it. There was no one around in the 06. Oh, I guess Fernando Torres, that's the one. And then David Villa, depending on what team you consider him on at different moments. But that, it has been Villarreal, Valencia, Sociedad, and then it has been Barca and Real
Sociedad,
Madrid.
or La Real.
Get out of my face right now.
Can I just say...
talk to us how good Austria was.
Well, I social media'd this, and you responded to me, and you were correct.
Oh, he got a response from Big Bad Toy.
On Blue Sky.
I know, a Blue Sky.
I don't use that other
Dave.
social media joint that he mentioned earlier.
You blue skadeded.
I thought that Austria were caught in 2 minds in this game. They didn't press the way a Ragnar team can press, but to be fair, we hadn't seen that from Austria in this tournament anyway, on occasion, but not for long spells. And then they didn't sit deep enough in order to clog up every avenue that Spain would ultimately have available to them. And so they were caught in this weird mid-block. And this is a conversation for another day, but I'll bring it up. I recently read an essay by someone who was talking tactics, and they said that the mid-block in soccer is dead. No good team or no team can defend efficiently in a mid-block against a good team.
Because it's too passive and it's too deep.
Exactly. Yeah. And so because they were caught in those 2 spaces, there was so much exploitable space. Now, Doyle comes in and says, but that has a lot to do with what's happening in the wings, with Baena and Cucurella on the left, and essentially with Lamine Yamal on the right. And you're correct. I think the one way that you deal with that is by sitting in a very tight block, and that's what Cabo Verde did so efficiently against the Spanish. But on an individual level, Lamine Yamal turned one of the best fullbacks in world football, Konrad Laimer, who is an exceptional, tenacious, gritty defender, into a basic defender.
Yeah.
And that just shows you how talented this guy is. And it didn't matter what he did. If Lamine Yamal came deep to create space for runners, Laimer didn't know what to do. He would get nutmegged or bypassed by the pass. There was simply nothing he could do to defend against Lamine Yamal. That's not to say that on occasions he got the better of him, because he did on a few occasions. And then he actually was one of the catalysts for Austria's best attacks. Austria didn't seem to have a plan. But on a few occasions, especially at the end of the first half when they were down only 1-0, they did have players in good positions, but their passing was erratic, and part of that had to do with the fact that they didn't really have a plan for what to do with the ball if they did break into the attacking third.
You know who's less
numbers.
erratic? You know who has a plan? Portugal. And Eric's convincing himself that
they
the
are
openings...
going to get, if they play the way they played against Croatia, Portugal is going to get dismantled.
We'll talk more about this next week. Real quick, how did Portugal beat Spain last year in the Nations League final?
By Nuno Mendes having the game of his life and keeping Lamine Yamal in his pocket, and by having a lot of good fortune. Because Spain were dominant in that Nations League final. Cristiano Ronaldo was an issue, and that was the game where I grew so incredibly frustrated with Cristiano and Roberto Martinez, where I thought, that's it. This marriage has to end. And then 5 minutes later, he scores a goal, and I get attacked by his hive on social media. But a lot of that had to do with good fortune and a few very good performances from individuals including Diogo Costa, including Nuno Mendes, who stood out.
Where's Diogo Costa going after this? Like, who's he?
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to be a Porto lifer. He signed a new contract about a year and a half ago. My feeling is
he looks like one of the three best keepers in the world.
Oh, and Porto's not good enough?
He has been.
I love Porto, man.
He has been. Watch your tongue. He has been for a very long
more of a
time.
Sporting Braga guy.
People that I
You're
know.
a minor.
People who I know who have coached Diogo Costa have said that he's an exceptional goalkeeper, but he really loves being at Porto, and I don't think he'll ever force a way out.
On that game, it was 2-2, and it went to 5-3 in penalties. Spain had 61% possession. That game was played in Portugal.
What was the XG
Sorry,
on that
no,
game?
that game was not played in Portugal.
It was played in Germany.
Yeah, it was played in Germany at the Allianz. Spain's XG was 2.14. Portugal's was 1. Right. And it finished 2-2. Ronaldo in the 61st minute, Mendes in the 26th, and Orazabal and Zubimendi.
By the way,
goals.
a lot of what we saw from Minge in that game against Spain, we saw against Croatia. I mean, the man is a machine.
He's incredible.
I cannot believe that some people, I was looking at player ratings from various publications, both domestic United States and domestic for me in Portugal, foreign, and they didn't rate him as highly as I would have rated him.
Out of the game yesterday?
Out of the game yesterday.
I thought there was times where he got stuck in cul-de-sacs and thrown off, and
because he's having to do too much.
Maybe. And then there was a few set piece moments, whatever, where it rotates to him at the top of the box, and I thought he would be more dangerous, aka shoot quicker, and he didn't. I think he gets one blocked and one he tries to cut back and ends up in a dead chance in a Croatia counter.
There is a glorious chance where he runs down the half space, has a clear shot on goal, and tries to defer to Ronaldo with the pass. Ronaldo was
that's
not
the one
in
that
good
he
position.
clips and it goes over Ronaldo's head.
No. He tries to cut it back, and the defender intercepts it.
So now that we're talking Spain, Austria, and we've done Portugal, the Habsburg dynasty has fallen on top of itself. Austria will go home. David Alaba, he is a free agent.
The Habsburgs ruled Spain for a long time.
It was a joke.
Yeah, okay.
That was the joke. It was the Habsburgs versus the Habsburgs.
Got it.
David Alaba will be a free agent as well. Don't know how much longer he has as an international career. Just one of the great characters in the world game.
He did well in this game, considering.
I mean,
a lot of emergency defending.
He had to yell at his own team. He had a save on the line. That was one of the great saves at the World Cup. The day closed out, of course, with the electric Switzerland versus Algeria game. Switzerland wins 2-0. I'll have the Nigerian commenter that I'm obsessed with who had to do a Ghana take. I will have him do my Switzerland apology, because the apology has to be as loud as the disrespect. Coming out of it, Switzerland advances to the round of 16. They'll play the winner of Colombia or Ghana in Vancouver. So a reminder, Switzerland played the final group stage game against Canada in Vancouver. They then played this game against Algeria in Vancouver, and they'll now play the round of 16. This was Switzerland's first knockout victory at a World Cup since 1938. Where they won 4-2 against Germany. Didn't know that Switzerland were taking shots back in the 1930s against the Germans, but they were able to get that win, a 4-2 win at the time. Breel Mbolo scored his 4th goal for Switzerland at the World Cup. He is 3rd all-time for this team. But we have spoken fairly often about Johan Manzambi. We already did it so far on today's show. I thought it was Algeria for the opening 10 minutes. They were the aggressors. They went after the game. They changed things up. They put our boy Maza as a false center forward. They kind of were 3 or 4 across the attack. It was a mistake. They went 3 or 4 across the attack to try and, I think, have some fluidity and some movement. And as we saw against Austria, Mahrez coming inside could become dangerous. I think Petkovic maybe over indexed on that side. But the goal for Switzerland is Manzambi from midfield. He breaks out against a somewhat set defense in a moment where Switzerland's not creating anything. He puts the opponents in scramble. He's able to get to the end line from midfield. He basically gets to the end line himself, and he squares it for Mbolo, and then that completely shifts the dynamic.
The kid is so polished with his off-ball movement, his understanding of the game, like where to be an outlet to make things easier for his teammates, but also where to be to create danger. And then he has the individual skill and unselfishness to maximize every single bit of that. I didn't watch much of this kid until this World Cup, and I'm just absolutely blown away. And as someone who's a little bit of a Barcelona partisan, I'm like, why did we spend $80 million on Anthony Gordon when we could have gotten this guy?
A defensive midfielder, Johan Manzambi.
Yeah,
That's a
anybody who
very
thinks
good
he's going to be a
question.
box-to-box 8 in the Premier, no, you're going to put this guy in attack somewhere. I mean, he reminds me of Thomas Mueller, his ability to understand where the space is going to
Ramon
be.
Deuter.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. His understanding of space, right? He's a space interpreter, and then has these just beautiful instincts around the box and makes everybody on his team better.
So he, at 20 years and 261 days, is the youngest player to reach 5 goal involvements in a World Cup. 3 goals, 2 assists.
Young player of the tournament.
That only goes back to 66, for the record. Pele probably did that with assists in 58, but they don't have the data.
But Thomas Mueller was 20 years old when he put up 8 goal involvements at the 2010 World Cup. He was days older. Therefore, Manzambi's younger, and Manzambi still is 3 goal contributions away from tying what Mueller did.
But first to 5,
Mbappe had 4 goals in 2018, but no assists, so he only had the 4 goal contributions in that one. Algeria, they continued to huff and puff a bit in this game. They finished with 56% possession. Part of that's game states they had to, but it felt like they always were going to come out and be the aggressor. And then it was Vargas and Ndiaye who sealed the door right after halftime, which is kind of heartbreaking for this Algerian squad.
Insofar as Switzerland is concerned, they are who we thought they were, right, in this game. Wouldn't you agree?
Nope.
No?
I think they're a much more dynamic team than you guys give them credit for.
Okay, well, I'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about Algeria first, though.
I cannot wait till Colombia packs them into a nice little chocolate box and sends them back across.
Into a Toblerone.
La Bombonera.
Into a Toblerone.
Yeah.
I think the biggest mistake Pekovic makes is he plays Maza as a false 9. He can be many things, this kid.
Yeah.
False 9 is not one of them. He doesn't have scoring instincts. In fact, he is a wild card like Manzambi, but the difference is that Manzambi knows where the goal is and he knows how to get there. Maza knows how to dodge people and carve out space for himself without any sense of direction. I love that about a player because it's chaos in a positive sense, not in a Portuguese sense. So I thought that was an issue because when Algeria were the better team in the first half, had they had somebody like Islam Slimani, who was such a great servant for this team, a prototypical 9, but who could connect the dots as well, I think they could have capitalized on the opportunities that they created, or at least threatened a little bit more. It seemed like there was a lot of possession for possession's sake from this Algerian national team, and we have seen that throughout. And we've also seen when they have to defend and they have to play Pekovic ball, they don't really have the profile of player to do that. They're essentially playing a left back as a center back, and Mondi isn't the center back that he was a few years ago at Betis when he was actually not the best center back, a ball-playing center back, but not necessarily the best defender. So a lot of vulnerabilities for this team. For Switzerland, I'll tell you why I think they are who we thought they were. I think that they are a team that understands that they have limitations. They know how to play within those limitations. And what do I mean by that? They're a team that can defend really well, coherently. They cover space well. They can sit deep if they want to. You know what I just said about the mid block, and it potentially not working against good teams? I think they do it efficiently, but they're playing Algeria. And then what they have at their disposal is a player like Manzambi, who is the wild card, but they also have industrious wingers.
Yep.
And that's the difference, right? I don't think that Vargas and Ndoye are world beaters, but I think that they're effective in what they do. They don't make mistakes in possession. They don't give the ball away in silly spaces, and that allows Switzerland to move the lines.
They're honest in their positioning as well, which means that Mbolo gets to be a basic number 9, which is what he is.
And his hold-up play was pretty decent.
And he's good at it, right?
Yeah.
And that just leaves room for Manzambi to interpret space.
Yes.
And then they have Xhaka behind him, and Xhaka is a really good orchestrator. So I think they're not breaking any new ground here. This is not a team that anybody's going to write poetry about, but they are a team that seems, now that Manzambi is finally in the starting lineup, is actually maximizing what they could be in what I thought was a pretty aesthetically appealing way for the first hour of this game.
Now I know why you don't agree with me. I think you just had lower expectations for Switzerland coming into the tournament than I did.
I mean, My expectations for Switzerland was that they were going to be boring and effective until they met somebody good. And to be fair, they haven't met anyone
Right.
overwhelmingly
No, they're going to lose
good
in the
yet.
round of 16 as they've done for 5 straight World Cups. And will be
Colombia-
exactly the same.
But
Yeah.
I know.
If
Because
Colombia get through, by
they
the
have
way.
not been fun to watch. This team has been fun to watch when Zombie's been on the field.
Listen, I could watch Granit Xhaka play all day, and I used to get so frustrated at some of my Arsenal-loving friends when they complained about him at Arsenal.
Yeah.
I thought he was played out of position. He's not a number 6.
Yeah.
Xhaka is just an exceptional player.
Yeah.
All right, now we can move on from all of that crap.
David's not having any
No.
of that.
You don't like Xhaka?
I don't mind Shaka. I don't think he's a 6 either. I think he's no. I think he's fine. I think the whole point of this whole thing is look at the spine.
Yeah.
You would take most of these guys on any team
Yeah.
at this World Cup.
Yeah.
Akanji, Elvedi, Shaka, now Monzambi, but not at the start of the tournament because he didn't start for the first 2 games. Embolo does his job the way all these guys do, and they always play down to their opponent. And your expectations of Switzerland, I think, is fairly coming into this tournament, and it has been for multiple tournaments, is kind of the standard thinking around the world. And all of that has been wrong every single time. And yet people do it the next time. And so I got tired of that. Plus, I've been around Switzerland fans, so I don't want to deal with them anymore.
much
Let's go
chocolate.
into today. We've got a couple of games coming up. Let's start with Australia versus Egypt, 2 p.m. Eastern time in Dallas. They've faced off just twice in previous competitions. It was a goalless draw at the 1987 President's Cup. Australia won 4-3
I remember
on
that one well.
penalties. Yeah, that was one of the bigger President's Cups that we all remember. And then they played a friendly back in 2010. Both these teams qualify as second-place teams out of their group. Both managed that final third game of the group stage just to get to this point in this position. I would say from what we saw in the group stage, so if we're just going to go with the first 2 games, I think Australia has more ideas of how to win a game, and they feel a bit more front-footed.
I think they know who they are. They've embraced who they are a little bit more than Egypt has. And Egypt's problem is that Salah and Marmoush don't really seem to get along on or off the field. And so there's just identity struggle within the team.
Egypt's other problem might be that Salah may not be fully available for this game. They're saying he is fit with a hamstring strain. I don't know. You can say whatever you want. It feels like in this tournament, in some of these injuries, which could solve that problem by having Marmoush and without Salah. And it kind of feels like Salah's had his moments at this World Cup that he needed to have. He got them out of the group stage for the first time. He scores a goal. We saw the celebrations in Vancouver.
And he's ready to revive the Los Angeles Galaxy.
And he's ready to revive the Los Angeles Galaxy as well. Okay, I'm fine with that one. He could take Gabriel Peck's spot. Apparently.
That is my assumption.
Yeah.
Like the Galaxy are clearly up to something big, and I think Mo Salah would qualify as something big.
Okay, so you don't actually know whether that
No.
negotiating
Go
is
ahead and
happening.
aggregate this, though.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I think they can play together, by the way. Salah and Peck, they can play together.
Well,
especially if
it
Salah
looks like
plays
they're selling Peck.
Okay.
That's where that comes from. So, and on this Australia side of things,
The last Asian team remaining is
they are the last Asian
Australia,
team. Yeah. So a lot of responsibilities. Only one African team has won so far.
Yeah.
That's the other side of things. Egypt and Ghana both on the field today. This is maybe the most winnable game an African team
and Cabo Verde
is
well,
playing.
right?
Oh, yeah. 3 of them. Sorry.
How dare you?
Kind of had 2 that had a chance, and I forgot about that one. I'll be excited to be wrong about that one tomorrow. Anything big that pops out for you going into this game?
This is an odd one. Because,
And neither team wants the ball.
yes, although Egypt is very likely to have the lion's share of the ball. I haven't seen anything from Egypt that suggests to me that they will have a way through on goal.
Yeah.
Australia did not look good against the U.S., but they looked phenomenally obdurate against, who did they play in the first game?
Turkey.
And so I think we're going to see a little bit of the same. I actually give the edge to Australia in this match. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember. Again, I don't want to, pull stuff out of my rear end with
But
this.
you're going to talk 1978 President's Cup.
I've watched all of Egypt's games in this World Cup, and if you asked me to tell you what they do well or what they don't do well, I don't think I'd be able to tell you.
No, and when you look at the group stage and then you look at the way Belgium performs against Senegal, that opening game, which was their shining moment, was an early goal from distance and then sitting in, but a Belgian team that we now fully understand doesn't have a lot of ideas of how to pull you apart. They survived through that game. They survived a first half against New Zealand, quite honestly.
Yep.
They struggled. Then the best half they've played is the second half versus New Zealand. They found verticality on the right side. Salah found gaps, and it's the best soccer he's played. And then against Iran, they hung in, and they stayed alive, and that's an Iranian team that didn't win a single game at this World Cup. So that's where I come from with this team. They haven't found ways to win games on their own outside of 45 minutes against New Zealand.
The other thing, anytime they've brought their lineup, they have looked so vulnerable to quick counterattacks. And so if 8 hours from now, Irankunda is the talk of the tournament because he just annihilated Egypt, I would be 0% surprised.
The other side, though, is when they sit in, I thought Chaubert was one of the worst goalkeepers dealing with crosses,
Oh,
which
my goodness.
Australia, set pieces,
Yes.
crosses, Sutar,
That's it,
all of
Sutar
this.
goal coming.
Yeah. This one will be the first game of today of 3 games.
Whoever wins this game plays Argentina, right? If
Correct.
Argentina beat Cape Verde.
Yes. We have our bracket here. Jordan's going to hook us up.
I'd like to see a rematch between Australia and Argentina.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
There's no love lost between these two teams, believe it or not. So I'd like to see that matchup. I'd like to see Australia try to kick chunks out of the Argentines, very much like the Argentines have done to every one of their opponents.
That is our second game of the day. Argentina faces off against Cape Verde, and this is our soccer.com segment. Don't forget, you can go to soccer.com to get some of the kits of these World Cup teams. It's the widest selection of World Cup products. You get free shipping on orders over $49. I've got the Argentina kit right behind me. It is one of the most iconic looks. It is one I can tell you every time Argentina is going to play in 3 days or has played 3 days before. You see them everywhere in New York. People just live in them in Miami, and it's one that, come on, you can wear that to a wedding. You can wear it to a black tie function. You throw a jacket on it, whatever it is. That thing's always going to work. It's a clean look. It's a famous look, and it might be one where it could be the first back-to-back World Cup champions since what? Italy in 1930? Whatever.
No, it would be Brazil
In
in
1958
and 62,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So you could have that, and if you want to get on it now before it starts selling out, make sure to go to soccer.com to grab it, as well as all the other kits we have. We put up a wall of kits. We thought we'd swap them out as teams got eliminated, and look at us and our predictions. No one got eliminated on that wall so far.
That's the reason they haven't been changed.
Exactly. Cape Verde are the lowest FIFA-ranked nation since the ranking started in 1992. They reached the World Cup knockout stages in their debut tournament. And now, after getting a draw against Spain, after the more open draw against Uruguay, they now go up against Argentina, Doyle. And I assume we'll see something closer to the Spain game states.
Two MLS legends, guys who really were made in MLS, Leo Messi and Steven Moreira going head-to-head. It's what we've all been
Jamiro
waiting
Montero.
for. Yeah, another MLS legend, very clearly.
Probably couldn't cut it long enough. That's why his team will lose. He doesn't have that extra gear that Messi has.
This is just Argentina knocking on the door for 90 minutes and hoping that Messi has a moment of magic, hoping that Lautaro Martinez can find a little pocket of space. I don't like Cabo Verde. They deserve all the credit in the world for getting here. They just need another miracle in order to get past this Argentina team.
Yeah, I think that the difference between Argentina and every team that Cabo Verde has faced already is that the Argentines play with a knife in between their teeth.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of aggressiveness. And one that, I'm sorry, hasn't been policed too well in this tournament. And hasn't been policed too well in the past. They do things. They're the masters. They're an incredibly talented team, and they also master the dark arts. And I find that combination is the winning combination for any team.
I'm going to read you a quote from Philip Lahm, who, of course, watched Germany, who were, I think, the softest version of Germany we've ever seen.
100%.
Eliminated a couple days ago. He says, the defending itself, the duel, the timing of the tackle, throwing yourself into a challenge is barely being coached anymore in Germany, apparently. When you watch how these South African players throw themselves into their duels.
South American
players throw themselves into their duels. You see the difference at once.
Yeah. There is a spirit in the way that Argentina plays that I'm envious of. I'd love to see that from the Portuguese.
And we saw it obviously, from Ecuador in that huge game that they had
Against Germany.
Against Germany, we saw it,
And that was the difference between the two teams.
yes, it was, and we saw we saw Uruguay do it. Obviously, they're Uruguay and Bielsa. It didn't lead to anything for them, but there was no shortage of commitment.
It
from
made them
that
more
team.
competitive.
We've seen it from. You're a Portugal fan. You saw it from Colombia. The way those defensive midfielders just made it miserable on the Portuguese central midfield.
I do wonder, and we could do this later when we have less games to talk about and everything. One of the things, because we watch a lot of Copa Libertadores, CONCACAF Champions Cup, all this stuff, the fields and the way the ball holds up and the amount of 50-50s that end up occurring because the game kind of holds up versus when you watch a Bundesliga game and everything is slick and everything moves quickly. Because on the flip side, the amount of sliding blocks that you see in a high-level European League game, whether it's a cross or a through ball, is different because they know how the fields run. And, like, you can slide 15 yards pretty quickly. And I do wonder if that's a part of any of this. This would be the biggest upset in World Cup history. And I texted people who were at
all
the
of
Germany
soccer history.
in Germany Paraguay game and said that would be. And I still kind of believe that for all of what Germany is soft for that Paraguay team to go in and play that German squad at all. One note, Christian Romero came off injured against Austria. Everyone got rotated for the they played third Jordan game. So we don't really know his status. He would be a big loss because Otamendi would step into that spot at 38
But you
years
talk
old.
about someone who plays with a knife in their teeth.
Yes. No, he plays with a bazooka in his pocket.
Which would be
He's really excited.
which
I can see it now.
which would be less of a factor in this game, most likely, with Otamendi. But for a really, really old Argentine group, especially the defensive core, Romero would be a huge loss, his ground coverage and what he brings to that team. But it would be shocking to see an Argentine group that has become specialists in doing enough to win games falter at a point like this. But if they do, Cape Verde is one of the stories of the World Cup. Make sure to go get your Argentina kit. Go to soccer.com. Check everything out. You can also get some of the Trianda balls there. They have special ones for just each matchup. So if you want to sort of lock in and say, wow, Spain's playing Portugal, I want to be able to remember that. I'm a huge fan. You can go to soccer.com to get that. The final game of today. Anytime Colombia is near a soccer game, I am around and I am there. Colombia against Ghana. Colombia, I think, one of the best performers in the group stage. Portugal was lucky. Speaking of hairs and half offsides and potential purposeful touches and all that, Portugal was lucky to hold on for the draw. Colombia now goes into Kansas City, and they play at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time to close out this round of 32. For Ghana, I think the game plan is there. We saw it against England. We saw it against Croatia as well. Sit in. There's this deep but somewhat of a mid-block. Semenyo on the counter is their biggest weapon, but there's a couple other pieces in this team that feel comfortable getting out and getting on the run. I would be shocked if Colombia wasn't around 58, 59% possession in this game. And for Colombia, it's just going to be, can you manage those counters and can you find your chances?
Well, that doesn't really suit them, though.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to
the
say that
thing.
could be to their detriment.
Yeah,
But
they
there's nothing else you can do about it.
Oh, because it's a Carlos Queiroz team, right?
So then the question, I think, with Colombia becomes, who do you start at center forward? Because do you go with Cordoba's size as a factor? Do you go with Luis Suarez's roommate?
I think you start Cordova.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, just because of the physicality. I mean, obviously, if you're going to have more possession, you want a guy who can link up play like Luis Suarez, but he's not been at his best in this tournament, and he showed against Portugal that coming off the bench, he can have a real impact.
Real energy.
And by that point, Cordoba will have exhausted Ajite and Lucasen. By the way, Lucasen, his brother, who is his brother? I just found this out.
Yeah, there's three of them at the World
His
Cup.
brother plays for another national team, and I was like, "What?" Completely different surname.
Can't believe you did this to
I
me at
think
the worst
that
possible
Colombia
time.
having possession is to their detriment. But having said that,
Kevin Broby.
Broby,
Brian
yeah.
Broby and Kevin Broby.
yeah, from the
Netherlands,
Netherlands. But having said that, I think that Colombia have actually exceeded expectations with the ball in this tournament, and I do think that Ghana presents some issues for Colombia. Issues that Portugal, they have weapons that Portugal did not have.
Yeah.
They're wide players. You talked about Semenyo. I love Kamaldeen Sulemana. I don't think he's developed into the play. He's still very young. I think he's only 22. 24 already? Okay, maybe he's a little bit older. I don't think he's still.
He is mathematically a little bit older.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Older than I thought. I don't think he's lived up to the ceiling. When he was at Rennes, he was must-watch football. I'd love to see more from him. I don't think we have. But hopefully Carlos Queiroz will whisper in his ear and say, This is a game where you can make yourself a household name. Go out there and win it for us. It can't all be down to Semenyo, who's also been quiet, to be fair.
Yeah,
in this
Semenyo
tournament.
has not been good at this World Cup, and I thought from the moment he got to Man City on, he was the best player in the Premier League. Like, he is a one-man wrecking crew, but he connects. He finishes with teammates.
Sorry, very quickly. Gideon Mensah has been one of the best left backs in the tournament. Sorry, I just want to say that.
So the other piece for Colombia, and I'm probably the only one thinking about this, is Richard Rios is the destroyer on this team. He clearly doesn't have the range Puerta has in his passing. He doesn't go out and find the game. But I wonder if this is one of those games where you say, you sit, both the fullbacks are going to go. Basically, he becomes a third center back.
Right.
And that's the only other positional or starting lineup question I think there is in this one for
it's
this
the
Colombia
tactical
team.
choice, right? Like, we talk about how everybody tries to get that 3-2-4-1 formation when you're in position in the attacking half. At some point, mostly, Queiroz teams force you to take that risk and go 2-3-4-1 instead of 3-2. You drop a center, and then, okay, if you're searching for a goal with that kind of desperation, what does that mean for Semenyo?
Yep.
What does that mean for Sulemana on the other side? And I think that is where this game is likely headed, unless Colombia get an early goal. Yeah. And if Colombia get an early goal, then I obviously goals change games. It's been said.
And I would say if you're playing against a deep block team, the way James has played so far is an answer on its own. Yeah. His passing has been as good as it's ever been. And when you come out and he's the drop back option on the edge of the box for Diaz or Arias, and he's able to, whether it's curl the ball in, find feet on a channel runner, or just take that first touch and open up the game a little bit more, he looks like he knows he's playing his last 3 soccer games of his career, and his legacy is there, and it's on the line, and I have a feeling we're going to see something special from him tonight.
Question. The Colombia's back line has buttressed this team, I think we can say.
Yeah.
Munoz, 2 goals? 3? 2 goals?
2.
2 goals to his name. I think he's going to be a shoe-in for the right back of the tournament if Colombia win this game. And then you have Lukumi and Davinson Sanchez, who really complement each other really well. Is it a stretch to say that Lukumi also stands a chance to being one of the center backs of this tournament? Or is that just a little bit hyperbolic?
No, I don't think it's a stretch. I think they were fully dominant in the group stage. And I think if they continue on, especially in a game like this where there's a chance, both those guys are factors on set pieces. And if defenders score goals, they tend to get far. The teams that get far, defenders tend to be a part of. But my guess will be there's going to be that emergency defending for both of them, and they're going to shine. I thought Davinson Sanchez did as well against Portugal because a lot of stuff came down the left channel, and the way he handled it is so impressive. And so I think they're both going to be in the conversation
I think
going
it's
forward.
a great tandem. Davinson Sanchez has always been this center back lacking discipline because he likes hunting for the ball. And in Lukumi, you just have a pillar at the back.
Which was the problem with him and
mistakes.
Mina. Yeah. Both of them wanted to hunt.
Yeah, well, Mina has a lot more issues than just
Lukumi,
wanting to hunt.
He's really funny because he's spent a couple of years in Serie A now, and he's just so Italy coded in how he plays as a center back.
I'm looking forward to this
game. It's pronounced Luchumi now.
Luchumi, yeah, exactly. You have to say it with your hands.
History buffs, comedians, I love it.
A little bit of language games in there as well. Call us Duolingo. Hey, Duolingo, genuinely call us. We're looking for sponsors, and we'd love for you to be a part of the show. Spoilers. We'll be back tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We will do this live. It will come out as a podcast. Myself and Matt Doyle are going to sit down in a little bit. We're going to do our Belgium USMNT preview. That'll be on the SoccerWise feeds. We will also have a live post-game show on the SoccerWise YouTube feed after that Belgium game. No matter what happens, we will be with you. It's the round of 16 starting tomorrow for all these teams. We've got a big set of games today. Tomorrow, We preview Canada-Morocco in a round of 16 game, which is absolutely delicious. France is back on the field in Philadelphia on July 4th at the 250th anniversary. My understanding is the roots are going to start up the spine for this team with Kylian Mbappe and Olise off on the two wings. And then after that, we get into Sunday, Mexico hosting England at the Azteca. On Sunday night, Norway against Brazil just across the creek here in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And then we're on to Monday. Portugal against Spain, an appetizer here in North America, a feast for many around the world. And then
Not for
USA,
me.
Belgium. It is going to be an incredible 4 days coming up of knockout soccer. We are going to be here every single day to talk about it. We are across all the socials. Come hang out with us on Blue Sky if you haven't already. It's the place to talk soccer. It is the only place to do it that is fun and engaging. And thank you to you two for being here. Big shout out to the number one soccer fan, Jordan. Todd, it's been great having in studio over the course of the week. No thank you to Connor, and we'll talk to you all again very, very soon.